My name's Dave Dubeau, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Welcome back, everybody. Let me ask you this. Have you ever faced a setback when it comes to your real estate investing career? Of course you have. We all have. We always do. The challenge is sometimes on shows and on podcasts and on social media, all we hear is the good stuff. We just hear, how people are just kicking butt and taking names and growing their portfolio left, right, and center. And sometimes that can be very inspirational. Other times it can be demotivating, especially if you're going through the crap right now yourself. So I'm very excited to be speaking to our special guest today, Jens Nielsen, who is zooming in all the way from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And Jens is a very accomplished real estate entrepreneur. He's a syndicator. He's done all sorts of deals, started off with smaller deals, and now he's in the syndication space and involved in, I believe, over 2,000 units. But he's also got a very good insight into the mindset, into the how do we deal with challenges when we inevitably face those challenges. So Jens, welcome to the call. Great to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I'm super excited about our conversation today.
Me too, my friend. So first things first, can you give us just a very brief snapshot of what does your real estate investing business look like right now, mid 2024? What do you do? What do you focus on?
Yeah. So we're 8+ years into this journey, and as you mentioned, syndicated. I think we've done over 35 deals, not all syndications, but about 35 real estate transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we're definitely in the operations mode, right? I mean, where interest rates are, we have closed one deal this year. That was not even an apartment complex. That was a small warehouse deal. From a few years ago, we closed 8-9 deals a year. So right now we're basically in operations. We are stabilizing the properties we have, making sure that they run as well as they can, getting gray hair when things are difficult and all these things, right? So it's really, and it's a very, I'd love to get into that because as you say, you see on Facebook and all these gurus out there, hey, buy real estate and be financially free. Yeah, well, it's a job and it's a business. And I think people forget that. And it actually, it is a lot of work. And I think we have to recognize that, not in a negative way, but we just have to realize it's work, realize that we have to put the systems and processes in place. And that is really what we are focusing on and have been focusing on the last year as transaction volumes has slowed down.
Yeah. So what would you attribute the slowdown to in your case, you guys? Does it have more to do with interest rates, prices of properties, availability of capital? What's the biggest bottleneck that you're seeing right now?
All of the above, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I think what we see is interest rates, right? 6, 7, 8%, whatever they depending on the loan product. That is twice as much as it was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Sellers that don't need to sell, why would they want to sell into a market where the cap rates have expanded given the higher interest rate? So the available properties on the market are very few, or they are just priced where it doesn't make sense in today's interest rate. So we have underwritten plenty of deals, but it's like, I don't think that the people that are holding on, they're still holding on, right? Is there going to be this quote unquote distress properties coming up? Potentially, but we haven't really seen that. So that's one challenge. It's just the numbers don't make sense. And, we also are like a little bit, some of the deals that we've done, they're, not, they have some struggles. So we're also like, let's not extend ourselves further, make sure that we manage the ones we have before we take on additional stuff, right? So there's that. I mean, and I'm on all these emails from syndicators out there. And I mean, I've seen 2 or 3 deals this year, right? That's been dropped into my inbox versus as people that are offering deals versus, every other week, it seemed like.
Tons and tons.
Right?
All right. Well, great to have you on the call, Jens, because you bring a dual perspective. You bring the perspective as an active in the trenches real estate entrepreneur yourself, a syndicator, somebody who's operating these kind of projects. Plus, you bring the mindset perspective as a high performance coach to the whole thing. So, how do you coach yourself through these periods of struggle and of angst that we all go through, but nobody seems to want to admit? Like, how, what do you do for yourself? What do you do for your clients? How do you help people get through these kind of situations?
Yeah, I think, it's easy to not wanting to face the reality, right? There's this
Yeah.
property over here. I don't even want to look there because, I'm not going to like what I'm seeing.
Mm.
What I've realized with that is then you build up a problem in your mind. It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Versus saying, okay, it's not going the way I wanted, but let me just take a close look at, face the reality, and have open conversations with my partners, with my investors about what truly is going on, right? Open communication. And then also realizing that, whatever business you're in, whatever job you have, whatever you do, don't risk for fewer problems, right? Because that's not a reality. Risk for the problems that you can, or risk for skills, or develop the skills you need to solve those problems. So that could be your own mindset, that could be the skills to connect with people, it could be the skills to just finding creative solutions. So really, I think like facing it head on, deal with what it is. And it's funny, I had a coaching conversation with a client this morning, and he has a property that's struggling a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And the conclusion was, hey, instead of being upset about this deal not going well, let's say, well, it's not what we expected. Maybe we made some mistakes, but the reality is we just got to work through it, right? Got to work through it and solve the problems that they come up one by one. And if we adopt that mindset, I think we move away from this victim. I'm a victim of something. Well, maybe, but that doesn't help anybody, right?
Yeah. I like what you're saying there, Jens. And I don't know. It's so weird that so many of us, when the things are going sideways, that is our just natural inclination. And I include myself to kind of hide our heads under the covers and hope the boogeyman goes away. Um, but that ain't going to happen. Like the problems don't solve themselves. Hoping that they go away definitely doesn't solve them. I've seen this over and over and over again with people that I'm aware of, people that I know myself in certain circumstances. So if you find yourself there, what tips would you give somebody to like, how do you get out from under the covers and actually face that issue and have those uncomfortable conversations like you're talking about?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's like remember back to why did you get involved in this in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of us did it because we wanted to get some freedom. We wanted to get, financial freedom and abundance and all these things. Remember that never went away, but it's harder to remember it when you're in the trenches. So remember
Yeah.
the reason why you got into it first of all, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, because that's going to drive you, that vision of what you are creating. And personally, even these, some deals that are struggling a little bit, I get to work from home every single day. I'm heading off to Europe on Friday on 2 weeks
Nice.
vacation. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have to ask anybody for permission and stuff like that. So those things, they're still there. And it was like, if I connect to those, then suddenly it's like, yeah, I've actually created a lot of stuff I wanted. Maybe some problems I didn't hope for, but they're here and that's a reality. So I think just remembering that
So
vision, the
kind of
reason why we did it.
re-inspire yourself with what you've achieved so far, what your initial goals were, kind of reconnect with that and
Yeah.
look on the positive side. Okay, that makes sense. And then
Yeah.
let's say you do have to have a conversation, or you should be having a conversation with an investor or a group of investors because things aren't going as you told them they should, as you originally promised people. Uh, what recommendations would you have to somebody who has to have those kind of conversations?
I mean, I think honesty and open and timely communication. That's one of our values. Open time, timely, and honest communication
Yeah.
is one of the values we have, right? So making sure you say, hey, investor or partner, based upon what we're seeing right now, our projections are off in this. This is what it most likely is going to look like. And, we're here to protect your investment, but it may require additional capital. It may require a sale or whatever that is. So just be open. And the interesting thing is, I've seen, actually not, I've heard from other people where people just go they just go silent. There's like no communication.
Yeah.
That's, I think, much worse than bringing it out there, right? I'm even an investor in a deal that's struggling a little bit. And they open and said, this is what we ended up doing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's good. I mean, I don't like it, but I'm not upset, right? Because I realize that. So I think if you educate people and, as we work with investors, it was funny, actually, let me step back. I have a friend who invested in one of my deals. I was like, how would you feel if this is actually one of our best deals. How would you feel if this deal started not working out, you weren't getting your payments? You're like, well, I understand this is an investment. I put money in it. I understand it's an investment. It may not perform the way it is. And I think that's just what we have to remember, right? Real estate was the most amazing thing if you bought in 2018 and sold in 2021. But over the long term, yes. But there are short-term challenges, right? And we just have to work through them. I think that communication piece is something. And this is where, again, Facebook and these things have done us a disservice, because it's like double your money in 2 years and buy your Ferrari and everybody is happy, right?
It's so true. And I want to ask you a question, Jens, because my sneaking suspicion is the reason some people go silent and have such a hard time having that open communication, those uncomfortable conversations, is because deep down, it's like we're little kids and we're scared of somebody yelling at us. We're scared of the grown-ups yelling at us, scolding us, making us feel bad. Somewhere in the back of our head, there's memories of that going on. And that leads to hesitancy. What do you think about that? Like, does that resonate, or am I out to lunch with that?
No, absolutely, right. I mean, am I good enough? That's probably the biggest problem we have, right? Am I good
Yeah.
enough, or am I an imposter? And if suddenly I'm found out that I wasn't quote unquote good enough because I couldn't predict what was happening to the market, and then suddenly, people are going to call me out. And yes, I mean, it upsets me too if an investor yells at me, right? I was like, but then I'm like, okay, I could either ignore it or I can step forward. I said, okay, let's have a conversation. I even offered, a few investors said, do you want me to buy you out? I just want to make you whole or whatever that is, because I value that. So again, think about, why do you have that feeling? Was your dad yelling at you when you made a mistake or something else? And just try to connect with that and said, okay, I'm not the 80-year-old boy or girl anymore. I'm an adult. I've taken on these things. I have a responsibility to myself, to my investors, to everybody else to step up into that role, right? And I think this is where we become the hero versus the victim.
Yeah.
Take responsibility, be the hero. Which is not easy. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of coaching conversations. So people, when I work with people and they start kind of hiding, avoiding, I said, okay, why are you becoming a victim?
Yeah.
By saying, oh, somebody else, this, that, and the other's fault, maybe, but you can become a hero. And becoming a hero is really the first step forward to taking control and start making changes.
Yeah, I like that. I like that very much, Jens. And I don't know, but quite often the fears that people build up in their minds over something, especially those uncomfortable conversations, they spend so much time thinking about it and letting it fester that when if they actually have them, they realize it usually doesn't go anywhere near as bad as they thought it was going to go. They usually don't. Like, the number of people that will actually yell at you is probably zero. Right? They might not be happy, but they're probably not going to tear a strip off of you. And even if they do, if there's that slight chance they do, let them vent, let them get it out of their system. Then they'll calm down. Then you can have that conversation. But I don't know. My experience has been, myself, when I've gone into hibernation mode and tried to avoid things, when I finally faced it, it was usually nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. What are your thoughts around that?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, hopefully the investors that you have are grown-ups that understand the risks, and you vetted them properly. You didn't take the
Well,
last
and
money from
you explain the risks and rewards of the deal up front and all that kind of good stuff. But even so, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's that piece. And I think just having the courage to talk to people, having the courage to explain what's going on, having the courage, or even showing that you have a plan. I mean, the last thing is like, hey, the deal's going sideways. I have no idea how to fix it. That's going to get you a lot of
Yeah,
upset
that's
calls
not a
or
good look.
stuff like that, But on the flip side, like, hey, this is where the reality is, right? You can say, here are things we had no control over, taxes, insurance went up. Here's what we have control over: leasing and maintenance and all these other things. We're focusing on the stuff we have control over. We're building that and we're focusing there and we're putting that energy into it. Give them a plan, give them my idea, and then continue to communicate. And said, well, and also I think a lot of people, they're so afraid of, well, we go from, we was cruising down the highway and everything is fine, and then there's a big wreck and everybody loses everything, right? That the property, you go to this terrible place, but the
Yeah.
reality is somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you make people whole, maybe there's a slight loss of money, or maybe there's a slight gain, right? It's usually not a terrible outcome in most situations.
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. And so, yeah, and it also kind of points to you touched on this, the importance of having somebody to talk through these kind of things with, because the worst thing you can do is just kind of hunker down, hide under those covers and just be in your own head all the time. It is so helpful to chat with somebody who's got knowledge about that, who can be empathetic with you about the situation that you're going through, that can understand what it is that you're experiencing and provide some valuable feedback about that. That's huge. So I know you're a big proponent, you're a big fan of coaching and mentoring. What is that? How has that helped you personally, Jens?
Yeah, I think the way it changed my life was actually in 2020. We all know what COVID is happening, and I was still working my W-2 job, and I had kind of promised my wife I was going to leave, but then that happened, and I was like, I
Mm,
shrunk, right? I was like, oh no, now I got to hold on to my job. We can't do all these, I can't quit and all this stuff, right?
yeah,
And I think a lot of people, they just did that and they watched Netflix for the next year.
yeah,
Now I was like, okay, this is probably the time I need some help, right? So I made my first investment, 4+ years ago into a coach, and it's just unbelievable what happened, right? Because he's like, okay, maybe this is an opportunity, maybe this is the time, suddenly you're working from home. Maybe you can start transitioning and start building these other things on the side, and you can start moving towards that. So literally, when everybody was freaking out,
yeah,
I was able to go to part-time, leave my job, and ramp up real estate investing, coaching, and everything on side, right? Had I not had this conversation with him, I would probably still be working my W-2 job and regretting not making those changes. So changed my
yeah,
life. And then I became so inspired that I was like, how can I help people in the same way? And now I do 500 coaching calls a year, something like that,
wow, yeah.
and I
That's
love it.
that is awesome. Awesome, Jens. Well, if people want to connect with you and find out more, where should they go? What should they do?
My website has my direct phone number on it. People can text me and my email. So it's Open Doors with an S, opendoorscapital.com. And people can also go to opendoorscapital.com/call, get on a 20-minute free call with me. And that's my offer to any of your listeners.
Wonderful. Well, hey, Jens, thank you very much for sharing your insight, giving us some tangible ideas on what to do when things don't quite go right and how to face those challenges head on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. A lot of fun.
All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.